An incoming Arctic front means we could see a bit of everything this weekend. I'm timing out when the cold rain moves in and who could see a wintry mix.
Two breaking stories tonight. First of all, a large police investigation in West Raleigh and a brush fire in western Wake County. What we've learned in the past 15 minutes.
And state budget stalemate. North Carolina is the only state in the country currently without a budget. Tonight, we'll make sense of all the finger pointing and better understand what's behind the delay. All right, here we go. We got a little bit of everything we got to be ready for this weekend because we got a chance for just about everything. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. So this weekend, we're going to see temperatures plunge. There's going to be some rain and, yes, even the chance for a little snow. Meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center to break it down. Kat.
Cold rain for most of us. That's the latest information that we have in tonight. And the rain's moving in even faster than it was yesterday, moving in overnight Saturday night into Sunday morning. There could still be some snowflakes that mix in during the early afternoon hours into the early evening. However, the trend today, especially amongst the high-resolution models, has really backed off snow, especially accumulating snow. This is a brand new run of the European model that we just got in. I want to show it to you. Again, even faster with the arrival. By midnight, already some light rain across our area, but temperatures above freezing during the overnight hours. As we head into Sunday morning, 7 a.m., we're in the mid to upper 30s, generally speaking. Close to 32 in Roxborough, but any snow that would fall still would have a hard time sticking. As we get into Sunday afternoon, the cold air tries to catch up with the moisture. It's really hard for this to happen, and it usually doesn't amount to much. However, we could see that change over to snow on the backside of the system or more of a rain-snow mix, but temperatures are still above freezing in the triangle even as that happens, so sticking would be difficult. Road conditions not expected to be impacted tomorrow, a low risk for impacts on Sunday. What we will watch for, even if you just see rain Sunday, is the freezing temperatures ahead Sunday night. There could be some black ice on the roads, and Monday that issue would be short-lived, if at all. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at the rest of your weekend and the latest impacts.
All right, thank you, Kat. Now, fortunately, we are not expecting any major impacts from this system, but the last thing anyone wants to do is be caught off guard. WRAL's Heidi Kirk joining us live now with how DOT is getting the roads ready for us.
Well, Dan, I'll mention that it is rather cold out here. In fact, outside the station, if you walk with me this way, you'll notice we've got Fountain Mountain out here. We've got some water flowing, but also there in the center, it's completely frozen. And I'll tell you, it's getting colder by the minute out here. In fact, I just put my gloves on. Now, there's a lot of prep that goes into getting ready for weather like this, especially when it comes to making sure the roads are safe. Now, we actually saw brine trucks out for the North Carolina Department of Transportation out on those roads. A spokesperson for the DOT says they first today hit interstates and then elevated surfaces, and then they moved to primary roads. Now, today there are roughly 36 trucks out and about across Wake County and our other northern counties, placing about 80,000 gallons of brine in our area. Now, this is the first time this winter that the DOT is hitting all the big roads, not just some of them.
But I think with this event, there's been so much uncertainty that we just want to make sure we hit everything. We have 2 days to do it before the first flake is going to fall, and then we just pivot to what we need to do.
And if you take a look back out here live, you'll notice, again, that water is free-flowing, but, you know, it's going to get colder. It could freeze a little bit more. We'll be monitoring those temperatures. Now, worth noting, this takes a lot of people to make the NCDOT's operation to keep the roads safe going. Diener said that there's about 127 employees to make sure everyone out there is safe. Of course, we'll continue sticking around and monitoring the conditions. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
All right, Heidi Kirk with the gloves on tonight. Thank you, Heidi. Now, that's some of what's happening on the roads. What's happening underneath them is causing some real problems. All across our area over the last week or so, several water mains have burst, at least 2 in Raleigh, 1 in Chapel Hill, and 1 pipe burst twice in Cary. WRAL's Sean Gallagher learned it goes beyond frigid temperatures.
You know, I grew up in the north, and I know a lot of people are going to see this story and say, no duh, it's cold, pipes burst. You're not wrong, but it's a lot more complex than that. In roughly a week's time, we've seen a number of water main breaks. including here on Northwest Cary Parkway after this pipe burst not once, but twice. 120 homes in the area without water. Is it more concerning when you have these variables like weather come into play?
It definitely is more concerning, especially with our older pipelines.
But Cary Utilities Director Jamie Revels tells me it's something of a cold coincidence. He says this pipe didn't burst because of this cold snap per se.
We think this is just an older pipe in our network.
Pipes installed in the 70s and 80s are reaching the end of their life cycle.
Most pipe materials have a 50-year design life.
And just like us, the cold weather affects them more over time.
Any little bit of movement within the soil, whether it can be dry conditions, it can be cold conditions, anything like that over years and years of service can impact those pipes over time.
It's something we've seen across the area, but that's changing. Revels tells me they're installing these ductile iron pipes with a life expectancy of a century or more. So when they get replaced, they'll be here long after we're gone.
So it's a very, very good pipe material, and that is the standard for which we build our pipes in Cary.
And it's not just these massive water mains that are a concern. It can be a headache for homeowners as well. That's why Revels shared a number of tips with me on what you can do to make sure nothing like this happens at your house. Just go to WRAL.com and look for this story. In Cary, Sean Gallagher, WRAL News.
This is Brian Schrader in the WRAL Live Center with updates to two breaking news stories that we first brought you on our 6 o'clock news. First of all, we've learned that a train struck a pedestrian in West Raleigh. I want to show you a video from Sky 5. This is on Hillsborough Street near Bashford Road. Raleigh police say they got the call right around 5:40 this evening about that crash, and this is an ongoing death investigation. At this point, that is all they're saying about it. It looks like there are still police cruisers on the scene out there, and at least some lanes are blocked on Hillsborough Street. Another story we are following this evening, this is out of western Wake County. Crews responding to a brush fire just off of 540 at Green Level West Road between Apex and Cary. Cary fire officials say that they were able to put it out pretty quickly and respond quickly. They are still on the scene, just keeping an eye on conditions, and the North Carolina Forestry Service has been notified. No structures endangered, no injuries reported. It is the same spot where they had a brush fire back in October of last year. I want to show you some live pictures from the scene. There's still some fire trucks are out there on the shoulder of the northbound side of 540, leaving Apex, heading up toward Morrisville.
Thanks for the update, Brian. Let's get you caught up now on the 5 things you should know right now on this Friday. Wake County's frenzy of law enforcement chases rolled on today. Sky 5 catching 2 chases today. In the first, 3 women ended up in custody after a chase along Highway 64. In the second, at least 1 person is in custody after a chase that started in Wake County and stretched into Johnston County. We've seen many car chases this week. The Isaiah Ross trial was delayed today. Court was recessed without any testimony after one of the attorneys had a family emergency. When court resumes on Tuesday, the prosecution will continue making their case, calling witnesses to the stand. A car crashed into a Jersey Mike's restaurant today. It happened on Forestville Road in Wake Forest. We're told at least 2 people were in the car at the time. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The number of measles cases in North Carolina grew again. Health officials confirming 2 new cases, bringing the statewide total to 9. All of the cases are from children. Several of the cases have been linked to that outbreak in South Carolina, where hundreds of people have gotten sick. Leaders cut the ribbon on a new public health center in Wake County. The location lets people access a wide range of care all in one place. $2 million in federal funding made this project possible. It's just a few minutes down the street from the current facility, and it opens to people next month. So we are in an election year. The North Carolina primary is just a few months away, and it's time for people to use their voice. But there's been a lot of noise surrounding that very thing, you using your voice, and it all ties back to redistricting. That's where lawmakers redraw the maps, often to give a particular party an advantage in the election. We just saw this play out in North Carolina. Republicans in the General Assembly made some changes to boundaries for District 1, making it very difficult, borderline impossible, for Democrat incumbent Don Davis to keep his seat. Gerrymandering has been around for decades, influencing countless elections, and it's going to do the same this year. To give you a primer, Ashley Rose sat down with leaders from both the Democratic and Republican parties.
I think what you see right now is we have a great set of maps that we'll use for the 2026 elections, and I think with every couple years it seems like there's some sort of change that needs to be made, mostly from Democrats, or in this case, Justice Orr suing over maps that are legal. And so what you're going to see now is that will continue. That will rack up more and more time that you'll spend covering that. But really, I think what you're going to see this year and years moving forward are fair maps drawn by Republican legislators, and especially at the congressional level, to maximize the Republican advantage, because that's what this state voted for.
You say fair, but again, we're talking fair versus free, Anderson.
I mean, I think that Republicans right now, the only way that they can hold power in the state is to gerrymander, which is what we saw earlier this year when Senator Phil Berger, after allowing or asking Donald Trump that if he traded a congressional district for an endorsement in a Senate district primary that he's now facing in his own backyard, because even Republicans are fed up with what Republicans from the General Assembly have been giving to them this year. I think all we saw was a power grab and a power play.
So this conversation is all part of this weekend's On the Record. We're going to dive into the history of redistricting, explain its influence, and share the national impacts that we have seen. It's tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So if you were to make a list of every state that doesn't have a budget finalized right now, that list would start and end with North Carolina. We are in a league of our own. Tonight we're answering why lawmakers haven't gotten a budget across the finish line. We're also explaining why it could be months before state workers, like teachers, for instance, might get a pay bump. Well, look, you know the drill here at 7 o'clock. You ask, we answer. And that brings us to today's good question. Craig wrote in and said, I met you at the state fair this year on day one and told you how much I appreciate you reporting on matters that actually mean something to me. And then he followed up with a question. Why has the state of North Carolina not passed a budget yet? So, Craig, great to meet you. Thanks for the question. And the answer might surprise you. We got some insight from WRAL state government reporter Will Doran. All right, Will, so we've heard from this viewer who wants to know why the budget hasn't been passed. I've heard from several viewers with the same question. What is the sticking point?
Well, Dan, the details are complicated, but the answer really is simple. It's tax policy. And what it is Republicans in the legislature just disagree on where we should go with income taxes in the state. And because they can't reach an agreement on that, they can't figure out what to do with anything else involving the state budget.
We are the last state in the country to have a finalized budget. I do think that some people get confused, though, because they think of the federal budget, and if something isn't passed there, we go into this government shutdown, and that adds a lot of pressure to get something done. We don't have that same pressure in North Carolina. They just keep operating on the old budget, or the budget that we're under now. But there is pressure being felt by a lot of people in the community. I have some folks who are friends of mine who are teachers, and they want to know answers about, are they getting a pay raise? What's going to happen with their health insurance? What other things are being held up right now?
Yes, one of the big things is Medicaid. Medicaid is on track to run out of money by sometime in March or April. And again, with people not having raises either, that is a huge pressure on hundreds of thousands of North Carolinians. I actually heard from the governor about that issue.
Our teachers are among the lowest paid teachers in this country. Our correctional officers, 49th lowest paid. State Highway Patrol, 49th lowest paid. All of our public servants are not adequately compensated for the value they provide to all of us.
So Governor Stein wants them to get back to work. Where are they, though? What is the timeline for getting back to work?
Well, they're probably not going to come back for a few months because they're all out campaigning right now. We've got primary elections happening, and a lot of our state lawmakers are involved in primaries, or they're hitting the road for their friends who have primaries. And so they just are really not in session right now.
Some people might hear that and say, well, that doesn't feel right. So instead of doing the job they're elected to do, they're busy looking to get elected and keep the job. That might sound cynical, but it is kind of what's happening right now.
Yes, and one silver lining to that is that they're out there talking to voters, they're in their communities, and so here's a chance that people have in the primary to talk to your elected representatives and say, hey, I want you to do this with the budget, I don't want you to do this with the budget. So we could see those conversations happening over the next few months.
The primaries in March. Are we going to wait until after then before we see anything happen with the budget?
I would be shocked if they do anything with the budget, or really anything at all at the legislature, until late March, early April, once those primary elections are over.
All right. Thank you, Will.
Thanks.
We love getting all of your questions here at 7 o'clock. Your voice has a place in this newscast, so please keep sending them in. Email us at 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. And by the way, our NC Capitol team is working on kind of a deep dive on all things state budget related. That's going to publish this Sunday, so look out for that, WRAL.com in the NC Capitol section. Let's send things over to meteorologist Kat Campbell as we have some cold, nasty weather headed our way.
Yes, we do. A lot of cold rain in the forecast for Sunday. You know, we need the rain, so it may not be pleasant to some folks, but with the severe drought, we desperately need it. Here's the update with Sunday. We have all the new models in for this evening. We call those the 18Z models. They're in. No big shifts to speak of since the afternoon update, but it's not an all snow event anywhere in our viewing area, even in Roxborough. It's mostly cold rain. Still some mixing remains possible, but the high resolution models really don't have much in the way of mixing even. The Arctic air is off to the northwest. Here comes our front. The front is going to move through tomorrow. Pretty minimal rain chances along the front. It's a new area of low pressure that spins up along the front that brings us the rain on Sunday. So for the day tomorrow, there could be some mountain snow in the morning. It kind of falls apart as it pushes east. This brown dash line is the colder air that's delayed a little bit off to the west, and then it just kind of gets hung up closer to the mountains. With the earlier arrival of the rain, and this is the new American model that I'm showing you here, it's just showing cold rain for Sunday morning. And then as we get into Sunday afternoon, as the cold air tries to catch up to the moisture, we could see a little bit of a changeover and some brief mixing, but it wouldn't amount to much. And even with the mixing in place, it would have a hard time actually sticking to the ground because temperatures may end up being slightly above freezing. We need the rain. The drought status severe now for our entire viewing area. This came out yesterday, but I wanted to show it again because I think it got a little buried with all the info about the weekend forecast. And we need this rain. Still not looking like a huge rainfall event in our area, but with the new models that just came in tonight, they have ticked up a little bit with rainfall potential between about 1/4 of an inch to maybe up to 1/2 an inch of rain. Not bad. A live look at White Lake tonight. Of course, it is dark and cold out there. 39 degrees in Raleigh at the moment, 35 already in Chapel Hill and Wake Forest. It's 36 degrees in Apex and 39 in Cary. It won't be quite as frigid tonight as it was last night. For your Friday night plans, we are dry, looks pretty good, but temperatures do dip into the low 30s by tomorrow morning. And then as we look ahead tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at highs reaching the low to mid 50s for most of us. There could be a couple of cooler spots to the north and warmer spots to the south. Overall, it's going to be a better day of the weekend compared to what's on the way Sunday. It'll be better feeling. Sunday, that 44 happens at midnight, and then temperatures fall throughout the day. So we look ahead to next week. It stays chilly for Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday. That night, we drop down to 19 for the low, just 40 the high on Tuesday. Through next week, the winter chill will stick around. Definitely no more of those 70-degree days on our 7-day forecast, Stan.
They don't last for long. All right, thank you, Kat. There are so many ways that the Triangle honors the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We went into the WRAL archive and are taking you back to the origins of one of Raleigh's biggest celebrations. That's next in your Friday moment of nostalgia. A holiday weekend is upon us. This weekend, we celebrate the life of Martin Luther King Jr. Every year, it falls on the third Monday of January, honoring Dr. King's birthday, which was actually yesterday, January 15th. The Triangle has so many ways to celebrate, and one of the most special events is in Raleigh, when the Martin Luther King Jr. All Children's Choir performs. This year will mark 40 years since the choir first formed in 1986. And with that in mind, we went back into the WRAL archives and looked around a little bit. We found the choir's performance in 1992. Thank you for making WRAL your choice for local news. Have yourself a fantastic weekend as we leave you with this, your Friday moment of nostalgia.
The Martin Luther King All Children's Choir sang out with all the energy and talent of any tribute to the slain civil rights leader.
Many of the people people attending this celebration hadn't even been born yet when Dr. King was heading the civil rights movement. But his message has been passed on and lives today in the hearts of the very young.
I know that he stood for our freedom and that he fought for our rights. And if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be going to school with some of the people that we go to school now. And I wouldn't be on this TV show right now if he wouldn't have been here. And I think they did the right thing with the man that shot him.
In a time when critics say school children are missing the basics, all of the young people we talked to had a good grasp of what Martin Luther King Jr. stood for, even this 6-year-old.
He was doing right, and then somebody put him in jail. And then he got a prize. And then somebody shot him, and he got buried.
King often talked about the children being the hope of the future. Many of today's children who have learned about King's dreams say his legacy will make their future brighter.
He was a good black American man, and one day that he wished that black and white people would stay together and play together.
And how do you think? You think he did a good job with that? You think we're getting to that point?
Yes.
Mark Roberts, WRAL TV5 News, Raleigh.
Watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.